Welcome everybody to Cerebral Jam Session number 2. This one we're going to be talking about conversations about real life. And so if you saw the first one, Chris and I were talking a little bit about the impact of things that were going on, but today we have a special guest with us. We have Regina Johnson, and she's going to join the conversation. And so we're really just wanting to talk about, things are happening. We talked about pandemic, we talked about civil unrest, we talked about disinformation campaigns, we talked about trauma and fear and confusion and anger, but we want to talk about how are we having conversations around that. So I think, Regina, we'll go to you. I know that you're working from home and you have children in the home that are virtual and kind of not virtual. What are the conversations you're having either with yourself or with your kids or with colleagues?
Oh, wow. So I've had several conversations with my kids. Both are a little different because they fall in different age range. So my 8-year-old, which is hard of hearing, she goes to a regional school for the deaf, which is housed within a general education elementary school. So it's predominantly general children without disabilities, and then they're just housed within. So doing virtual within that has been definitely lots of conversations. Of course, when COVID first started, no one really was able to figure out how to be able to do the platform or how they were going to do it. So we had like 5 devices that we brought home, and she didn't know any of them. So I had to basically be IT tech for her. It was a lot of waiting. It was a lot of frustration. It was a lot of crying, tears, and a lot of time on my part spent on, trying to make sure everything was together. So conversations that we had within my school, I actually had to speak up myself and let them know, okay, this part of it is not working. We're going to need more devices. We're going to need an iPad with their interpreter on that screen, and then she's going to need her teacher on one screen so she can look one or the other. This little small screen is hard to be able to see an interpreter signing. So that means connecting to two different devices. So it was mostly trial and error and feedback. But if we're not getting feedback or when it's virtual, I think it's very beneficial to have lots of feedback from the parents and what's working and what's not. And I think a lot of parents really don't have enough, I don't want to say education, but they're not comfortable with speaking up and saying what's working, or I'm not really sure what other situation may happen. I mean, there's tons of them, but.
Absolutely. Yeah. Being an advocate, I mean, sometimes it's very difficult. So, Chris, I know we talked about conversations. What are some of the conversations you've been having either with customers or with family or friends or even myself and Regina? I mean, we have conversations. How are you trying to work through what's going on?
Well, I think, one of, like Regina was mentioning, is trying to engage with parents and to help educators engage with parents and collaborate. And, the key to trying to address all the issues that are coming from the very, practical type issues, like how to do virtual learning that Regina was talking about, but then to even say other issues that we were talking about last time in terms of mental health or addressing trauma is to share information. I think part of the problem is that we fall back into this pattern of looking for answers. The thing is that there aren't real available answers that are easy for us to get. Exactly. Some people may think they have the answers and they think they may be dialing in to the answers, but we have to watch who are we giving this, giving over the idea of someone who is really knowledgeable and providing these answers. And, when we look at the media and we look at different, discussions in politics, especially because we just went through this election cycle, everybody's claiming to have these answers. But then when we're talking about putting them into practice, we realize that those answers aren't there. So, we can't make can't get answers based on our gut feelings. We kind of have to look at people who are knowledgeable, and our educators are knowledgeable, okay? But this is new to them too. So
Right.
I always look at it, and it's new to me as well, as someone who supports educators and supports parents and works, with it within, in our, within our groups, is that I don't know the answers. We're all on this pathway together to learn what those answers are. But what I can say is that, okay, if you're working with your kids and your kids, as a teacher or as a parent, and if I'm talking to a teacher, I want to make sure that, as a teacher, you share this with your parents too. But you want to keep track of your kids' emotions. So your students' emotions or your kids' emotions. You want to also keep track of your own. Okay, so what are your feelings on these things? So when I have these conversations and then, say, do that, then also focus on your strengths, focus on your kids' strengths. We have these challenges. I mean, I'm older. Okay, I'm not gonna age myself, but say that when I talk about grit, I talk about John Wayne. Okay,
There you go.
the thing is I feel I'm an immigrant in this technological world. Okay, I am a second language learner. Okay, so I am going to listen to my stepson who's 20 something when it comes to technology. I'm going to let him teach me. So the same thing I think is just like, teachers are working with parents and they're trying to set things up for the students. Hey, sometimes those students may say, well, this is how you do it. I've been doing stuff like
Exactly.
this online when I've
I
been
grew up
gaming
this.
for
Exactly.
years,
They've
right?
grown up with it. They know how to do it.
So I think is use the strengths that we all have. And I think, again, go back to collaborate. And when you make decisions on what you're going to do, include student. If you're a teacher, include students and parents. If you're a parent making decisions and trying to decide what to do, include your kids. So it's work together because we're all in this together. So
Yeah, I agree 100%. I'm trying to listen more and talk less, which can be very difficult for me, is that trying to understand what they're going through, because our experiences may be the same, but they may be a little bit different, but I can learn something from them and they can learn something from me. And, Regina, you talked about your youngest child who does have a hearing impairment and is kind of going through the struggles of technology and trying to get it all worked out. But also you have an older child that you said, all these things that are going on has really kind of started you listening to what that child is saying and how they're feeling. So you want to talk a little bit about that one?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So I do have a 15-year-old. She is a straight A golden student. So she has a little bit of social anxiety. That was before COVID kind of set in, but now that she doesn't have a whole lot of social contact because she still is going virtual, we are in the midst of where she's starting to break down. She's starting to break down, and her grades are her. This is the first time in 3 years that she's gotten B's on her report card. And I know it sounds.
No, but it can be very stressful for somebody who's not used to it. Yeah.
But we are used to, she's on the A honor roll, or not A honor roll, but she's National Honor Society. So this was, I've never had teachers call me. I get calls from teachers like every week now saying that she hasn't done work, so she's pretty much actually really fallen into depression for the first time. I've never thought that I've ever had to deal with actually one of my children having depression, and it's not due to COVID. It's really just a enhancement. So COVID just enhanced it. So what's happening now is we're dealing with therapists, and she had to get diagnosed, and now we're actually looking at maybe even a 504 program for my child that's National Honor Society.
Yeah, which you never would have thought of. And I think you bring up a good point is now that we've been in the pandemic, we've gone through some of this year-long stuff that we're going through. It's almost like you're now taking a different lens with her and saying, I don't really have to focus on the grades because those are just going to happen. But her grades are falling. Well, is she not understanding? No. And you realize quickly that has nothing to do with it. It's not that she can't do the work. It's that now there's so much other stuff going on internally with her that she's like, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if I can make this. And, you know, as you said, I never in my mind thought, wow, this is where this child would go. And I think it's what Chris is saying is we're all going on this journey together, and we're trying to learn. And, you know, one of the things that, you know, we want to kind of end with and talk with is, what are things that we can do? You know, I was big about polling my students. I wanted to know where they were, if, you know, I could talk to them more, play with them more, goof with them, or they were just needed to be isolated. Chris has got some really good questions that he has provided that we can provide for you guys is, you know, are you even able to recognize your own emotions? I mean, I think Chris was talking about that. I have to know how I feel, and then I know how they feel, and we may not feel the same way, but we're both struggling. Same with you. You're finding out that your daughter is really hurting, which in turn makes you hurt, because you're thinking there's nothing I can do at this point to really get her through that. So I need to get her some more help other than what I can give. And so
that's actually a really good comment, because what's happening is I'm actually very aware of my feelings. And what she struggles with is how she's feeling. She's not able to vocalize or share how she's feeling, and she doesn't know why. So she doesn't know the culprit, or
right. So it may not have the coping mechanisms to deal with it.
Right.
Yeah, that's a huge one. And then I think another one, Chris, we talked about is aware of supporting others. Is, you know, and I was talking with Regina earlier, is when I support someone, it actually makes me feel better, because I'm helping someone. You know, do we have strategies to regulate these things? Can I communicate? And I think that may have been something that may have been difficult for your daughter, Regina, is can she even communicate to you what's going on? I feel this. And, you know, Chris has worked in this world forever as people trying to talk to him. He's easy to talk to, and he listens, and he processes things. But I don't think we always have that person. So I think we need to have the vent. And we talked about that, you know, offline before, is you got to have somebody you can just let it rip with, and they're just going to say, cool, you can say whatever you want, doesn't matter. But I think, you know, one of the things as well, in Regina, you alluded to it a little bit, and Chris has talked about it, is making good choices. Are we still making choices that are in the best interest of the child, and the parent and the school? Because you got to try to mesh all three of those things together, which can be very, very difficult. So, you know, we're just trying to give everybody just some ideas of how you get to this place. And I think, you know, kind of an ending is with Regina and what Chris said, is just communicating with each other, talking about what you're going through, understanding how you're feeling, and then can you even talk about it? Because, yeah, I know how I feel. You said you know how you feel. Are you communicating that to your daughters? Chris knows how he feels. Is he communicating to the people around him? I know I don't do a very good job of it. I'm really good at keeping it inside, and then, you know, it'll just blow up at some point. So, but I wanted to thank Chris and Regina. Awesome conversation about conversations, which was really cool. And those of you who are, you know, watching this, we're going to have another session, a third one here after a while, and hopefully you'll join us. But I'd like to thank both of you guys again, and this was awesome.
Thanks, Adam.